This is it, the ultimate Breeders' Cup Classic Clash. The race of the century is what they're calling it. 9 horses are competing for Breeders' Cup Classic glory and potentially Horse of the Year. Now, this is one of the deepest, most quality, even playing fields that we have seen in a really long time. And every horse has a question that they have to answer. And let me just start by saying I'm really saddened by the fact that Sovereignty is no longer in this race. In this race or not, he is an incredible racehorse. But the race does go on, and the question's going to be, how are you going to find your winner? Facts and figures are going to give you that winning edge. I give you the stats, you make the picks. Hi, it's Maura from Trifecta and a little bit extra. And in this video, we're going through the stats and the questions that each classic contender must answer. But first, I do want to remind you this. Horse betting is not legal in every state, so if you're betting, make sure it's legal. Now, I created a framework to help you find a Breeders' Cup Classic winner by narrowing down the contenders based on pillars of handicapping: form, speed, and class. And you can find that video here, but I'm going to give you a brief summary. So basically, in order for us to find our classic winner, we are going to begin with 2 pillars of handicapping: form and class. Once you narrow the horses based on form and class, you then rank order them according to their speed in their last race. And when you take the top 3 to 4, 83% of the time, the classic winner is in there. Now, I said 83%, not 100%, so take note on that. So to begin with form, I look at the horse's age combined with their speed ratings in their last 3 races compared to their prior 3 races. And what I'm looking for here is an improvement between the last 3 races and the prior 3 races. And why I compare that with age is horses that are age 3 and 4, I'm looking for the improvement. Horses age 5, well, they may be at the top of their game, so I really don't look for improvement there. And I really eliminate any horse over the age of 5 because there hasn't been a classic winner in the last 30 years over the age of 5. Next data point for form is, how did the horse do in the prep race prior to the Breeders' Cup Classic? And here I'm looking for a first, second, or third, or in the money in that prep race. Out of the last 30 Breeders' Cup Classic winners, every single one finished in the money. So they meet the form requirement, I move on to class. Class is just what is the quality of the races that they have been competing in. And here I'm looking for a win in a grade 1 race, because that shows me if they show up and compete at the top of quality, that they can win. Next, I'm also looking at what percent of the time are they in the money in their grade 1 races. And here I want to see 50% or higher. So if they're getting in that starting gate in grade 1 races, they're performing well 50% of the time. That gives you class. Now, horses that don't meet those requirements, they're knocked out. Now, once we've narrowed the field for form and class, we then need to consider speed. We look at the speed in their prep race, we rank order, and top 3 to 4 horses. These are the horses that we're really going to consider. Now, there's a couple things. This framework helps you organize your data. You're still going to need to do all the work to find your winner. And the framework only works 83% of the time, not 100. Now, I do understand 83% is high, but this is an extraordinary year. There are questions and changes that we need to consider with every single horse. The quality is deep. You could use the framework, you could alter it, you could not use it at all. It is all your choice. And as with any other framework, here's what I like to do. I like to say, what does it not know? What do I need to consider? And that's what I plan to do when we go horse by horse. Now, finding the winner in this year's classic, that's going to be a tough task. And in all transparency, with the year we're having, this framework may not even work this year, but I'm going to give you all the information that you're going to need to know to make an informed decision. So if that's appealing to you, then stick with me in this video. So starting with form, the framework eliminates two horses. One is contrary thinking, and I think we could have all safely eliminated him and did not even need this framework. But the second one is fierceness. Yeah, I said it. Fierceness. Fierceness, who's going to be the favorite in the race now. Why would the framework eliminate fierceness? Well, it all has to do with the fact of his inconsistent races. We're not seeing that improvement in his last 3 races to his prior 3 races. But man, how do you eliminate this horse? I mean, I'm not saying I'm personally going to eliminate this horse. What the framework doesn't know is how well Fierceness has competed at Del Mar. Don't know about the fact that he almost veered into the rail, but somehow pulled it out and won the Pacific Classic, or he was in that very hot-paced Breeders' Cup Classic that last year and almost won, coming in second. So you don't have to follow the framework. You can override it. And honestly, knowing what I know about Fierceness, I'm not going to argue his inconsistency. Every time I say Fierceness is going to do well, he underperforms. And every time I say I like him, he blows the roof off the house. But if you really, really like him, and I know one viewer really, really does, so hi to you, absolutely keep him in. Moving on to class. Now, all horses remaining have at least one G1 win, and they're in the money 50% of the time. So this framework doesn't really eliminate much this year. And man, oh man, does that speak to the quality of the field. If you used this last year, you're down to 3 to 4 horses by now. And if you want to see that, go back to that video that I was referencing. So now it really comes down to speed. I triangulated several different speed ratings, and here are the results, and I think you're going to be shocked. Drum roll, please. The horses it would pick are Forever Young, Mindframe, and Baeza. Now from here, I would make a determination and I would add one more, Fierceness or Sierra Leone. I would say, okay, what's that pace going to be like? Can Fierceness actually hold him off? Or is because contrary thinking is in the race, it's going to set up really well for Sierra Leone. For me, I'm going to go off of that last speed rating and I would pick Fierceness. Now, if you didn't want to use Fierceness or Sierra Leone and you wanted to choose one more horse to go a little bit deeper in the field, that horse would be Antiquarian. Now just remember, the horses in this year's Breeders' Cup Classic are separated by inches and not feet, which is why I'm going to go horse by horse, including those not on the narrowed list. I want to give you all of that relevant information to make an informed decision and narrow down the horses even further if you'd like. But if you end here, you may miss that relevant information that resonates with you the most. So I encourage you to stick to the end. Coming out of post position 1 is Fierceness. Now I saw an interview with Todd Pletcher and he said, any post but post position 1. He didn't want any potential that Fierceness would dive to the inside again and almost hit that temporary rail. But unfortunately, post position 1, it is. He'll be ridden by Johnny Velasquez, who gave him that masterful ride, somehow managing to recover in the G1 Pacific Classic, the prep race. The question Fierceness has to answer is, will the real Fierceness show up? Now, this is a question that I've been asking myself with this horse since 2023. If you don't know the story, he was my pick for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and boy, did he not disappoint. So in February, I went to Gulfstream to watch his first race of his 3-year-old season. I purchased a ticket right behind the winner's circle because I wanted that photo of him in the winner's circle. And guess what? He finished 3rd. Next time out Florida Derby, he romps, winning by 13 lengths. Now, since then, the only thing you could count on was consistently inconsistent. In this year, he had a win in the G2 Alysheba going 1.16 miles, 107 buyer. Second place finish in the Met Mile, 102 buyer. Sounds good, right? Then he goes to the G1 Whitney. What the heck happened? Fifth place with 100 buyer. Now 100 buyer is none too shabby, but he hasn't been lower than a 102 since the Kentucky Derby. Then he comes here for the G1 Pacific Classic, this distance, and that's really important. He wins with a 107 buyer. Now, what I really liked about that ride, other than the fact that he recovered from diving into the rail and that Johnny Velasquez stayed on the horse, was the fact it was a very fast-paced race, and he didn't really press that pace. Now, Johnny had a very tight hold of him. He reserved his energy and used his energy at the right time, and that may be key to holding off the closers here. So leave him off your ticket at your own risk. His last Breeders' Cup Classic, that was also incredible. He pressed a blazing hot pace. That first half was the fastest we've seen in 30 years. And he didn't give up until the end, finishing second with a 111 buyer, his lifetime best. Now, things we know, when he's on, he's on. He has one of the top speeds in the field. Likes Del Mar, likes the distance. Johnny Velasquez, incredible rider who knows this horse. All things you should consider when evaluating Fierceness. Coming out of post position 2 is Baeza, a 3-year-old trained by John Sheriffs who'll be ridden by Hector Berrios. 8 starts with 2 wins, 3 places, 2 shows. So outside of that very first race as a maiden, he has always hit the board. The question he needs to answer is, has he progressed enough to win against journalism? Because every time they've been in a race together, he's gotten bested. Now, for those of you who don't know Baeza, he is the half-brother to Kentucky Derby winner Mage and Belmont winner Dornick through their dam Puka. Now, coming out of gate 21 in the Derby, you know that's a really difficult thing to do. He surges at the end and he almost catches up to journalism, but he finishes third. He goes to the Belmont and finishes third again behind journalism and sovereignty. Now, in both of those races run at this distance, he was a bit immature. For the Derby, he was all worked up. And in the Belmont, he just kept tossing his head around. In the G2 Jim Dandy going a 1.1 miles at Saratoga, he finished second behind sovereignty, just a length behind. And this time he was much closer to the leader than in those other races. His signature race was the G1 Pennsylvania Derby, going a 1.8 miles at Parks. Now he comes out of post position 8 in a field of 10. He races in the back of the pack. As they go around the turn, he makes a move. He goes wide, and as they enter the stretch, takes the lead and wins with a 105 buyer. Now that's a move that I really like to see. Closers in this race can win, but they got to be able to go wide around that wall of horses. 4 grade 1 races, 1 win, 100% in the money, and buyers between 100 and 105. And this horse knows this track. He trains here. That last race, he did show a lot of improvement, and that should have increased his confidence. But the question's going to be, does he have what it takes to win against these horses? Now, before we move on to the next contender, if you're finding this information useful, hit like and hit subscribe. I have lots of Breeders' Cup coverage, and if you're not seeing a video, head on over to my website, www.trifectaandextra.com. I'll be posting a couple more written blogs. And after Breeders' Cup, we are heading down the road to the Kentucky Derby. Coming out of post position 3 is Bob Baffert's Nevada Beach. Now he's going to be ridden by Mike Smith. Very lightly raced horse, 4 starts, but you can't knock the 4 starts. 3 wins and a place, so always in the exacta. The question he needs to answer is this: can he compete in the race of the century with only 4 starts. Using the methodology, he makes it all the way through until the speed ratings, and that's when he falls out. He really lacks the class of some of the other runners. Only one G1 race. That was his prep race, going 1.1 miles. He's never gone the 1.25 miles distance. Now, he won his prep race by 1.5 lengths with the 101 buyer. Without the distance experience, not having the class of the other runners, and not being top on speed, even though this lightly raced 3-year-old can improve, he's not on the top of my list for this race, but I will be following his career. Coming out of post position 4 is Contrary Thinking. Trained by Chad Brown, he'll be ridden by Florent Giroux. Now, he's the pace setter in this race. 7 starts, 2 wins. Falls out of the framework by not coming in the money in the prep race. Now, we've seen him enter twice with Sierra Leone in the Whitney and the Jockey Club Gold Cup. He gets on or near the lead, he presses the pace, and then he finishes last or near last. He's not a horse that I would select to be the winner of this race, but he's going to impact this race for sure through the pace. If the pace gets hot, who does that set up for? Sierra Leone, journalism, and Baeza. Now, the key to a closer winning in this race, they must be in striking distance when they're going around the turn, because the short stretch at Del Mar, bam, the finish line is right there. So if they're not within a length to a length of a half coming into that far turn, it's going to be really difficult for them to get to the finish line first. And also they may need to go wide around the wall of horses. We saw this last year with Sierra Leone. Pace was super hot and he was able to come from behind, but he was also within striking distance going around the turn. Coming out of post position 5 is Japan's Forever Young, trained by Yoshito Yahagi. Now, the question he needs to answer is, has he progressed enough to beat Sierra Leone and Fierceness? Now, you cannot discount this horse. I understand he was in the Breeders' Cup last year and he finished 3rd behind Sierra Leone and Fierceness, but 3rd is a very strong showing. Now, after that race, he went into a G1 race in Japan and finished 1st over a quality horse that finished 2nd in another G1 race and 4th in the Saudi Cup. Now, Forever Young, he goes to the G1 Saudi Cup and he wins by a neck over Romantic Warrior. Let me tell you about Romantic Warrior. This is a 7-year-old who has been in 25 races, and get this, he has won 18 and placed in 5. And just because he's 7, he's not slowing down. He has a win and a place this year, and a lot of his races grade 1 and grade 2. So that was a quality win for Forever Young. But kind of like Fierceness, he throws in a curveball every now and then. He goes to the Dubai World Cup, another G1 race, and was the favorite, but finishes 3rd behind Hit Show and Mixto. Now from there, he's entered in what was probably an easier race and wins. Now, we know he does really well when he comes to the US, so he does not need to answer that question. He's actually ranked 2nd in the Longines World Best Racehorse Rankings for 3-year-olds and upward, tied with Sovereignty and a couple other horses. You have to respect this horse. But can he get back to the form that he was in the Saudi Cup? For me, he's tough and remains top of my list. The number 7 horse is Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is trained by Chad Brown and will be ridden by Flavien Prat. Now, Chad Brown has said this is one of the best racehorses he has ever trained. Sierra Leone has 2 questions to answer. Can he become the 2nd horse to go back-to-back and win the Classic? The other horse that has done that? 'Tis now. Second question, how much was he compromised by the incident in the Jockey Club Gold Cup? The reason why that's important is he's not high on the framework list because of speed. And if you felt like he was compromised, you must elevate him. Now, he registered a 106 that day, slightly below the 109 that we saw in the Whitney. Now, his performance in the Breeders' Cup last year aided by that super hot pace, gave him a 112 Beyer. And the 112 is the top speed at this distance amongst all of these competitors. Now, we know he likes the Del Mar track, and that Pratt knows when to turn on that accelerator and get that momentum going. He has had 5 starts at this distance, always on the board. 1 win, 2 places, 2 shows. But for me, why I don't prefer Sierra Leone is I'm not really seeing that improvement between his 3-year-old campaign and his 4-year-old campaign. And I like to emphasize horses that are showing that progression. But if you like him, I would say stick with him. He's a quality horse that really likes Del Mar. He's last year's winner, and he may get the perfect setup. Now, coming out of post position 8 is a horse that I really like, and that is Mindframe. Trained by Todd Pletcher, he'll be ridden by Irad Ortiz Jr. The question he has to answer: what kind of condition is he in? We all saw the incident at Saratoga in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Unfortunately, through a series of bumping, he loses his rider, Irad Ortiz Jr. Luckily, he wasn't seriously injured, and Mindframe did not finish the race. Now, Todd Pletcher has called this horse special, a generational horse. Todd Pletcher has had a lot of good horses, so I do not take that compliment lightly. Leading up to the Jockey Club Gold Cup, I personally saw him as the leading 4-year-old colt. Now let's just review some of his accomplishments. At age 3, after winning a maiden and allowance race, he enters the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes. That's a tall order, 1.25 mile distance, this distance at Saratoga. Now he was really green that day, but somehow manages to come in second ahead of who? Sierra Leone. That's pretty impressive. He then goes to the G1 Haskell, 1.8 miles distance, finishes second with a 101 Beyer. His 4-year-old campaign, all G1s, all wins, except for the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Now, the last time we saw him was in the G1 Stephen Foster, 1.8 miles at Churchill Downs. He wins with a 105 Beyer. Who does he beat that day? Sierra Leone. Now, that was in June. In an interview, Todd Pletcher said, hey, we thought about putting him into another race to get that conditioning in him, like the Lucas Classic, but we decided to stick with the training plan that we had. He has been training consistently. If you don't think not finishing in the Jockey Club Gold Cup didn't hurt him, you have to consider him a serious contender. For me, he's at the top of my list. Post position 9 is going to be occupied by journalism. Trained by Michael McCarthy, he'll be ridden by Jose Ortiz. The questions that he has to answer is this: will the jockey change get him back to the winner's circle? He's a quality horse, but every time he's met up with Sovereignty, unable to get the win. But get this, 10 starts, 6 wins, 3 places in 1 show, always in the money. I mean, how can you knock that? His last 3 races, all Grade 1. He ran in the 3 Triple Crown races. He came in second behind Sovereignty in the Derby and the Belmont, and he went on and won the Preakness. His best Beyer in his last couple races was in the Belmont, a 105. Now, he won the G1 Haskell going 1.8 miles with a 101 Beyer. Last time out was the G1 Pacific Classic. This distance, this track. Now, he tried to catch up to Fierceness, but was 3 lengths behind them, finishing second with a 102 Beyer. That last race in speed rating, that's what's knocking him down the framework. But what does the framework not know? That potentially, because he's getting another rider, he may be more forwardly placed. If you looked at the Classic, journalism was way in the back for most of that race. It was a hot pace race. Fierceness made a move before journalism. And remember, that finish line is right there at Del Mar because of that short stretch. So he had just too much ground to make up. Now, if you really like journalism, you really need to keep him. I know one viewer that really likes journalism. This is a talented horse that unfortunately was born in the same year as Sovereignty. The number 10 horse is Antiquarian, a 4-year-old colt trained by Todd Pletcher. 9 starts, 4 wins, and 3 places. The question he needs to answer is this: Should he have won his prep race, the G1 Jockey Club Gold Cup? Now we know that through a series of events, Mindframe unseats his rider, and that impacted both Mindframe and Sierra Leone's performance. Antiquarian started from post position 8. He missed all that trouble on the inside of him. He catches his rival from the Suburban, Phileas Fogg, holds off Sierra Leone, and wins by a length and a half with a 108 buyer. Now, if you look at the race prior, the G2 Suburban, also at Saratoga, also coming from an outside post, he had a really strong showing. He surged at the end and he lost only by a head to Phileas Fogg, 104 buyer. His last 2 races have been his best and he's improving. So it looks like that win in the Jockey Club Gold Cup was no fluke. Last year as a 3-year-old in the Belmont Stakes, going again this distance at Saratoga, it didn't look like he wanted to have anything to do with the distance. It said that he weakened. But his last 2 races, both at the 1.25 mile distance, different story. But the question is, should he have won? Now, if you think he shouldn't have won and that Mindframe or Sierra Leone would have won had it not been for the incident, then you may not want to use him because the framework would have eliminated him. This was his one and only grade 1 win. But if you say this is a horse that's putting it all together and progressing and should have won, then you should keep him on your list. Can horses with only one grade 1 win the classic? Absolutely. 11 horses have done that over the past 30 years, but all but one had at least 3 grade 1 entries. The one that didn't was Arrogate. Antiquarian has only had 2. The 2024 Belmont, where he finished 5th, and that last win. There are a couple things I want to note though. He tends to be a little bit further back in the stretch than I would like, especially at Del Mar, because it's a very short stretch and the finish line is right there. And can somebody tell me, is he really chunky? I heard a commentator say that he was chunky. Now it's your turn. Drop me a comment below. Who is going to win the race of the century? Make sure you hit like and hit subscribe. After Breeders' Cup, I am back on the road to the Kentucky Derby. I hope you all have a successful Breeders' Cup weekend and find those winners. Cheers!